Hello, this is Top Stories and Viewer Television. I am Joy Malik. Now, on the 13th of February 2022, 38 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 0 related deaths were recorded in Nigeria. Now, so far, 254,016 cases have been confirmed, 397 cases have been discharged, and 3,114 deaths have been recorded in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Infectious rates are decreasing in Nigeria, with 38 new infections reported on average each day. Now let's take it to Niger State, where terrorists have invaded some communities in the Magama local government area of Niger State and allegedly killed some residents, abducted others, mostly women and children, as well as arrested cattle. The chairman, Magama Local Government Council, Safayano Ibeto, who confirmed the incident, revealed that the terrorists invaded Mabini, Zoma, Bado, Yangalu, Buga, and Zabi communities. He stated that the affected communities had been deserted, while some women and children were hiding in the bushes and others taking refuge in Kontagaro. He appealed for the provision of food and other basic needs for the displaced victims. The police state's public relations officer, DSP Wasiu Abiodun, also confirmed the incident. The federal government has expressed concerns over what it described the double standard of Western nations, especially Canada, which supported the NSAS protests in Nigeria. Now, while warning against the destruction of the country in the guise of protests or unbridled freedoms, the government said citizens should first consider national interests at all times. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, expressed these views during a press briefing which held in his residence in Oro, Kwara State. He was reacting to the clampdown on protesters by Canada truckers and declaration of a state of emergency by the mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson. The Component 2 Manager, European Union Agent for Citizen-Driven Transformation Program, Idem Udiokong, has called on the Nigerian government to allow civil society organizations actively participate in the laws regulating them. According to him, a bill seeking to address regulatory and administrative issues, among others, for non-government organizations in the country, recently scaled second reading at the Senate. Udiokong said he believed that allowing the NGOs to participate in the process will make the law more inclusive and acceptable, thereby improving the level of compliance among the organizations. He spoke at the meeting of the Steering Committee of the Civil Society Regulatory Environment in Abuja. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will make a fresh diplomatic push in the coming week as part of efforts to defuse the Ukraine crisis. Now, the statement came after his defense minister suggested some nations were not taking a strong enough stand against Moscow as fears grows among some Western countries that Russia is preparing to invade Ukraine. Johnson will hold talks with other world leaders and is particularly keen to talk on the Nordic and Baltic countries, the statement from Downing Street said. Now, Claire Mitchell and Zoe are fighting for pardons for all those executed for witchcraft in Scotland, the vast majority of whom were women, and for memorials to those forgotten by history. In total, more than 2,500 people were executed for witchcraft in Scotland, 4/5 of them women. They were mostly strangled and then burned after making confessions that they were often extracted under torture. They are recognized in the wind-blown 16th century cemetery by a small column nicknamed and the Winch's Stone. Passers-by often leave flower petals and coins as a tribute to those executed, who include Gressel Jaffrey, strangled and burned in 1669. In a city center streets, a mosaic depicting a coin of flames commemorates Jaffrey, the woman known as the Last Winch of Dundee. Today, the activists of the collective winches of Scotland are fighting to bring them justice, while the parliament is set to adopt a bill to pardon the victims of the winch hunts in the territory.
accused of witchcraft and in some cases being killed by mob justice.
So the mosaic denotes the fact that she was burnt as a witch to get rid of her ashes. There was a belief that if you didn't get rid of every part of a witch, that they might revenant, coming from the French revenir, to return.
But, you know, we need to make no mistake about this. In those days, people believed really, really strongly in the devil. They really felt they were operating in a world in which the devil was out to get them, and that women were weak vessels, basically, who the devil could act through. So that's why women tended to get accused, because women were seen as being somebody that the devil could manipulate easily, whereas men could withstand, you know, the devil's advances.
And on anti-COVID-19 rules, the Canadian truckers' anti-COVID rules convoy is reviving up following the occupation of the key trade routes and the Prime Minister's warning of severe consequences for those involved. Now, outside the Canadian Parliament, however, a number of supporters of the protest serve up coffee, eggs and sausages to truckers who are denouncing COVID-19 restrictions and are hawked down for a long stay in the Canadian capital. The truckers have raised the stakes by blockading the Ambassador Bridge, across which 1/4 of all Canada-US trade flows. Meanwhile, authorities have announced a state of emergency, threatening fines of up to $80,000 for protesters.
Cause, puis personnellement, je trouve que ça pourrait être une des causes les plus importantes de ma vie. Fait que moi, je suis motivé à venir ici. Chaque journée que je suis capable, je viens.
Thank you in return for what they've done for us. So it's cold nights and it's long days, and so any little thing that I can do to say thank you.
German President Frank Walter was re-elected for a second term of 5 years by a special parliamentary assembly on Sunday and vowed to heal the wounds left by the coronavirus and fight enemies of democracy. And the president was elected with a big majority by a special assembly made up of the members of parliament's lower house representatives of Germany's 16 states. Now, he had been endorsed by some mainstream political parties ahead of the election for the largely ceremonial head of state. In reaction to the escalating crisis on the border of Ukraine, where Russia has massed well over 100,000 troops, Stemann warned that we are in the midst of the danger of a military conflict. A war in Eastern Europe, Russia bears responsibility for this. The re-elected president vowed that he would continue to work on strengthening democracy in Germany and help take away fears of the future, giving the country's citizens the confidence to handle the challenges ahead. He also vowed to help heal wounds created by the coronavirus pandemic. Ukrainian President said that warnings of an imminent Russian attack on his country were stoking panic and demanded to see firm proof of a planned invasion. Now, he said, comment comes a day after U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned that a Russian attack on its western neighbor could begin at any time. Ukrainian leaders have been trying to talk down the prospect of an all-out war because of the damaging effects it was having on the country's stirring economy and public morale. Weeks of tensions have seen Russia surround its western neighbor with more than 100,000 troops. Moscow is demanding binding security guarantees from the West that includes a pledge to roll NATO forces out of Eastern Europe and to never expand into Ukraine. Earlier Saturday, the United States ordered all non-emergency Kyiv embassy staff to leave Ukraine because of the threat of invasion. The Pentagon late said that nearly all remaining U.S. soldiers would leave Ukraine as tensions soared.
With our people, like like a president, and say people truth, and the truth that we have different information. And now the best friend for enemies, that is panic in our country. And all this information that helps only for panic doesn't help us.
And lastly, Spain and Portugal are suffering from a record-breaking dry spell. It is the driest January for over 20 years, and water reserves are running low. The drought has farmers worried across the region as climate change leads to rising temperatures. Residents are concerned that these things will only get worse. The crisis even threatens the region's renewable energy generation, like Portugal's hydro dams, which generates nearly 30% of the country's electricity.
Ni siquiera al 30%. Y también en el nordeste de la península ibérica, en la otra punta, en Cataluña, también los embalses están claramente por debajo de su capacidad. En general, en el conjunto de España...
É regada uma vez por semana, ou assim, porque os nascentes estão fracos, muito fraquinhos. Toda esta zona que não é regada, o pasto não cresce e os animais...
E a de baixo está igual.
¿Preocupa esta situación?
Não preocupa, não tem nada a preocupar.
And that's all on Top Stories. Do stay tuned for the rest of our programs. I wish you all a happy Valentine's Day. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now.